5 behaviors that screw up your optimal timeline. This is how to get to your optimal timeline. I want to go over the things that may be preventing you from getting there and how you can avoid these things, how you can stop giving into these things if you are engaging in them. That's coming up next. Hi there, welcome to the video. My name is Dave and this is HeartSpace, where we are releasing videos almost every single day to help you live more life more in your way. And to me, that means living a fulfilled life, one filled with purpose and passion, essentially moving you closer and closer to your higher self. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any videos that we create. Now, speaking of moving closer to your higher self, we're going to be talking about timelines today, shifting to your optimal timeline. And essentially what this means is shifting into a version of yourself that is closer and closer to your higher self, to your optimal self, meaning you are behaving, thinking, speaking, energetically resonating at a level that is higher and higher up the consciousness scale, where your higher self resides. Now, in this video, I specifically want to go over things that are probably preventing you from getting to that optimal timeline, because one of the things to understand about moving on to the optimal timeline, where your environment will change, the people around you will change. Essentially, if you listen to teachings from people like Bashar, yes, your actual reality will have shifted away from people no longer on the same frequency. And so the biggest thing that actually is preventing you from getting there isn't what you're not doing, it may be what you are doing. Because what you have to understand is that naturally your energy is incredibly high. At your natural state, if you were to let go of all resistance and allow yourself to be as intuitive and as natural as you can be, you would be on your optimal timeline. And so in this video, again, I want to go over 5 of the things that if you were to let go of, this would take care of itself. You would start moving on to that optimal timeline almost automatically, because you would be releasing all of the attachments and baggage you have picked up on that is moving you away from what your higher self actually is and what it is telling you. So let's get into the first one. We're actually going to go in reverse order, starting with number 5. Number 5 is a very simple one, and one you've probably heard of before, but it is watching the news. And I don't mean just watching the news on TV, watching the whatever news station, pretty much all of them, but also online, reading articles, things of that. Really, any mainstream news, if you are consuming it in any way, it is 100% taking you away from your higher self. Because whether you want to believe it or not, the news, at the very least, wants to sell stories. They want to get your attention, and they understand that the collective consciousness at this current point in time is mainly in a consciousness state of fear. And because they are in fear, they are only going to resonate with things that are also in fear. Now, the news could also be someone that's on the cutting edge of actually getting our consciousness level higher by only sharing stories that are high consciousness, but they choose not to do that. And again, there might be more nefarious reasons why they are doing that. But again, at the very least, it's to sell papers, it's to sell headlines, it's to sell subscriptions, it's to get eyeballs so their ratings are high, and so to get better sponsorship. It's for money, essentially. And so they will do what they need to do in order, at the very least, again, I think this is at the low level, to get that in. And so the reason why you don't want to be consuming that is because they don't have your best interest at heart. They are not going to help you move to your optimal timeline. If anything, they're going to keep you stuck on a timeline that's going to lead to suffering, it's going to lead to fear, it's going to keep you on lower frequencies of energy. And so if you are someone who is watching this video and is obviously interested, or at least a little bit curious about shifting to an optimal timeline, shifting to one that's more in alignment, shifting to one that is closer to your higher self, or is where your higher self is. If that is something you're interested in, you can't be doing that while also watching the news. One of my mentors, probably my biggest mentor, says one of the first things he essentially tells us when he takes new people under his wing into one of his elite mentorship forums, he says, one of the first things I want you to start doing is stop watching the news. Because again, guys, the frequency of that will affect you. The information you are receiving, the energy level of that information will start to affect you on a subconscious level. And your subconscious will then transmit stuff out that you will then receive back on whatever frequency you're currently you're vibrating at. And so if you're vibrating at one at fear because you keep consuming this fear-mongering information, which is what news essentially is this time in human history, then you are going to have that kind of output if that's the input you are receiving. And so the first step, guys, is really please stop consuming the news. Guess what? When I stopped consuming the news, I had the same fears probably a lot of people do, like, oh, I won't know what's going on. I won't be informed. Well, guess what? The news really isn't telling you what's going on. It's only telling you what's going on from the perspective of a certain lens. There are millions of perspectives that you can choose, and you can choose all of them, and they all could be true. As we'll be going over in, I'm sure, a later video, you are creating your reality as you go. Life truly is a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, let's create a self-fulfilling prophecy that's favorable, one that allows you to live in a very fulfilled way, all of these different things. And so I would implore you to stop watching the news and start to watch more inspired content. The fact that you're watching this, for example, is probably already a good indicator that you're starting to move in more of an optimal timeline, because you wouldn't be drawn to this video that's on this frequency if you were not also moving to that frequency or kind of in and around it or completely on it. And so what I would implore you to do, one, drop the news, drop anything related to the news, and start consuming stuff from people who are coming from a higher energy on the consciousness scale, and information that is from there as well. You'll know because it resonates with you. You'll know because it's in your heart and you are just intuitively drawn to this information, which you might have been for this video. I like to watch people like, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I like to listen to people like Alan Watts. I like to, there are other YouTubers like Aaron Dowdy who I like to listen to who are in this energy. And I do that instead of watching things like the news or things that bring my energy down. So that's sign number 5. Let's get into number 4. So we spoke about how you should cut out the influences in the digital form, or on the television, on the computer, the negative news information. But you also want to cut out the negative influences that are in your immediate environment. So this might be friends, this might be the kind of circles that you hang out in, but the fact of the matter is, guys, you will be 100%, no matter how great your willpower is, no matter what your belief system is currently, you will be influenced by the people you surround yourself with and you are with the most. There's always that famous saying that if you hang out with 4, winners, you will be the 5th. If you hang out with 4 people who complain all the time and are broke all the time and are negative all the time, you will become the 5th. Our environment, especially the other energetic beings, i.e. other people around us, they will shape us no matter how much you try and resist. A lot of people, they're changing and they're shifting timelines that may not involve certain people they had in their old story or on the other timeline that they were on. And a lot of people have trouble letting go, and I get it because I've been there and I understand that, and I've tried to be like, well, no, I can maybe just bring my new self, the new way I view the world, into my current timeline or where these people are, and maybe they'll join me. But that's not how it works. They have to go on their own journey if they're even going to shift timelines or not, but that's none of your business. I know that's hard to hear, but we have no control over what someone else does. So instead of trying to control them and bring them to a certain place, you can be the invitation for someone, but you can't force them. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And so what you want to do is make sure you are removing yourself from people who are energetic anchors, I would call them. And yes, that can be scary, but guess what? When you create room in your life, especially when you remove something that's weighing you down, it allows you to lift up to where other people who are on the same timeline, at the same frequency are, and you'll start to become friends with people like that. You will start to create relationships like that. And I can say that's been the case in my life, and it will be the case in your life if you allow it to be as well. And so that is number 4, is to really start to remove the people who and everyone knows who it is. You can always think of the person. The first person that popped up in your mind when I mentioned it is probably the person you need to spend a little less time with. And this doesn't mean you're superior or they're inferior. Everything is perfect. Everyone is exactly where they need to be. This isn't about that. It just means you are moving in a different direction than they are. They have their own journey to go on, but it doesn't support either of you to stay in the same frequency if is trying to go in different directions. The third behavior that prevents you from shifting to the optimal timeline is staying in the known. One of the things that is going to help you shift to your optimal timeline faster and faster is diving into the unknown from a place of your heart. This doesn't mean you're going and just doing silly things to do silly things. This doesn't mean you're like, oh, well, I've never done that before, so I'm going to go do that. You only do it if it's compelling to you. What Bashar says is follow your passion, right? Are you passionate about it? What is your highest excitement? Abraham Hicks says that one as well. A lot of people I follow say this over and over again, but what is it that excites you? What lights a fire in your heart? What are you truly passionate about? Usually that will take you into the unknown, but that passion, that excitement is coming from your heart. It is a message, an energetic emotion, energy in motion message from your higher self saying, hey, this feels good for a reason. And if you go and pursue this, if you go and see where this takes you, I know it's unknown, it can be a bit scary, but if you do it, it's going to move you closer and closer to me, to your higher self, to your divine self. It is going to put you into those states more often where you are in that divinity, where you are in that higher state of consciousness. And so that's what you want to be doing. You want to see what is resonating with you. But a lot of people stay within the known. They stay within routines that have never served them. They stay in autopilot even though they're living a mediocre to probably very poor life, on average with most people. And, it's like, I don't know if it was Einstein who said it, but if you keep doing what you've always been doing, you can't expect to get something different. And so to get something different, if you want to move on to a timeline where you are more in love all the time and you are abundant and just your life is a dream come true. And life is a dream, and it can be a dream come true. It always is a dream come true based on how you set up the dream. But why not set it up in a way where you love it, where you're excited to wake up, where you're learning and growing and prospering and uplifting others and helping others get into their most optimal life and to their, be fulfilled and all this different stuff. Right? Why wouldn't you choose that? And for most people, they want that, but they keep repeating the same behaviors, the thoughts, the words, the actions that they've always been doing because it's known, because it's familiar, instead of taking that chance of what their heart is leading to them that's in the unknown. And so if you're displaying that you're doing 95% of the same stuff every single day, which is what most people are doing, by the way, 90 to 95% of what you do one day, if you're in autopilot, is exactly what you're going to do the next. People have 90% or something crazy like that of the same thoughts they had yesterday. And in order to get to that new timeline, you have to start acting like the person, the version of you that is on that optimal timeline, which means you need to change your behavior. You need to dive into the unknown. And when you're feeling excited, that is your optimal self. That is your divine self. That is your higher self telling you that that is something that you do regularly on this optimal timeline. Time to start moving into it. So if you feel that excitement towards something, go towards it. Don't overthink it. Go towards it. And enjoy the ride, because it's only going to lead you to better and better things. Number 2 is giving away your power. People do this, so many people do this every single day, almost all day. They give away their power. The amount of people that believe they are powerless instead of powerful is always astounding to me. I've made videos where I've said, that we are co-creative, divine, infinite beings, and I've had people going like, no, you are not divine. We are not divine. We are lowly humans. They didn't mention the lowly human part, but they did mention the other part. But that's essentially a lot of the foundation a lot of people are coming from. They think they're a lowly, sinful, terrible, born of sin, born of hatred and envy and all these emotions we're not supposed to have, even though we have them. That's just where these lowly creatures that go through a miserable existence, and then if you're good enough based on the eye of some authoritarian, floaty person in the clouds, then you can make it into a better existence. If not, he condemns you to this place where there's another floaty dude, but now he's like bread or something. I don't know, but it's what a lot of people believe, right? And it's not that it's bad if you believe that, but if you are believing that, if you don't see yourself as a co-creative being with the universe, if you are continually moving from a place of limitation, you're not going to move on to that optimal timeline because you are giving your power to something outside of you. You are giving your power to authority. You are giving your power to perhaps an idea that you haven't questioned in a long time to see if that idea even holds up anymore. You are giving your power, like we went over, to the news. Oh, if someone on the news tells me this thing, I better go do that thing or else what? Nothing. You're giving your power to other people because you're afraid to take your own power and face the consequences of you taking your power. But you have to do that in order to go on your journey, in order to go on your divine quest, whatever that would be, to get to that higher place. But a lot of people stay in place because they just say, hey, you take my power. You take my power. I need to buy that thing to feel good enough. I'm going to put my power in that. Or, hey, this coach says they can help my life, but I'm going to take no responsibility. Boom, I'm going to give my power to that person. Or, oh, this person on the news, blah, blah, blah. Boom, power. Boom, doctor says I'm blah, blah, blah. You know what? Instead of taking control of my own health, boom, give it to the doctor. Whatever it is, you are giving your power away. And when you realize that you are so powerful, that we all are, that you are a part of divinity, you are an infinite co-creative being, infinite co-creative being, co-creating with oneness, with divinity, with God, with the universe. When you recognize that, which many of you who are watching this far into the video, I would assume have, because guess what? Most of what I said would repel most people who would have opposition towards this unless they're continuing to watch to give some talking points in the comments. I see you. But when you realize that, understand that if you're giving your power away, you're never going to get onto the optimal timeline, because the optimal timeline is you coming into your power, coming into your divinity, coming into who you are as a co-creative, infinite, divine being fully. That optimal timeline. Your higher self is not giving its power away. They are not giving their power away. So if you want to move into the higher self, if you want to move into the optimal timeline, stop giving your power away. Make choices. ABC, right? Always be making choices. To not make a choice, by the way, is to make a choice. To allow someone to make choices for you, you may think you have no choice, but it is a choice. This person said this person told me to do this, so I did it. You made the choice to follow whatever that thing is the person told you to do, and therefore you are responsible always. And so take your power back, take full responsibility for your external world, for your world as this spiritual being in a human body, and things will begin to change, and you will start to move more into your optimal timeline. And number one is very similar, but I want to mention it. Although I probably didn't mean to mention it in the last one, I want to go over it a little more here. And number one is being passive. How many people are letting life live them instead of living life for themselves? You know, I heard someone say that once, don't let life live you. And essentially it's that same thing. You're giving power away, you're listening to the news, and you're just doing things based on what other people are telling you to do instead of taking a breath, going inward to where your higher self resides, to where it's sending you the messages of what life can be for you, if only you so choose. If you do that and you go inward and you listen to your own inner guidance, and you take action from that place, you will start moving into greater and greater timelines, a greater and greater life. One that you will wake up one day, as I have very recently, and go, wow, my life is amazing. I love my life. It's phenomenal. I'm just so grateful that I'm here and I get to do this, and I understand so much now, and I have all this awareness. And when you go on that journey, those things are available to you. The higher and higher you go, the more closer you go to that divine self, that higher self. But you can't be passive. Right? A lot of people get into this world where they start to discover, wow, I am a spiritual being in a human body. Wow, I am someone who's co-creative. I'm divine. I'm infinite. I can create my reality. They start learning something at some level up to that degree. They start understanding they have a little more control. But because they've gone through their life already, having passively done stuff, it's a habit they find hard to kick. So don't meditate and have all these things come to them, but then question why their life won't change. They'll get all these messages from their higher self, but not take action upon them. And so, the final thing I would say, within the context of what we're talking about moving to that optimal timeline, that's holding you back, is essentially you're not taking the action your higher self is giving you. You are not taking the action that's coming to you when you meditate. That's such a common thing, by the way. So many people I see on these videos about meditation, or I hear from my mentors who are teaching meditation, or even on my own videos will go over, I've been trying to raise my vibration, or I've been raising it, but nothing's changed. Or I've been meditating and I feel great, I feel more calm and everything, but this hasn't changed. My external world hasn't changed. And then always one simple question can be asked to see why. Have you taken action based upon what you've learned or what has come to you during your meditation as you were raising your energy? Because the raising of the vibration and the energy should compel you to go take the action. But if you are not used to taking action, you are going to have to not force yourself, but motivate yourself a little to do so, because you are fighting an old story, an old timeline. But the more you give into that old timeline, the more you solidify yourself there and can't move into this new version of yourself. And so, don't be passive. It is a huge sign that's going to prevent you, or behavior that's going to prevent you from moving on to that optimal timeline. But if you are doing the meditations, you are putting yourself in that high frequency, doing the practices that get you there. I, for one, love breathing practices, Wim Hof method, that helps me get me there. If I then just do that practice and then go, nah, and then go do nothing for the rest of the day, then sure, I felt good, and that will lead me to the ideas that I can then take that feeling good energy and work towards to bring amazing things into my life. But if I don't do that, I can't expect the amazing things to come in my life. I can't expect the synchronicities, the momentum to be built. And so the final one is you have to get out of this habit of being passive. It's a hard one for a lot of people, but once you get out of this, once you listen to your higher self, once you follow your passion and you're not being passive, things will start to line up so fast for you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I was really passionate about this one. I really loved making this one. So I really hope you will apply these ideas. And again, don't be disheartened if you are displaying some of these behaviors. It's okay. Wherever you are in your journey, on your journey, is perfect. You were never meant to be anywhere that you are not now, or you're never meant to be somewhere other than where you are now. When someone's in the second grade and someone's in the fifth, the second grader is not lesser than the fifth. They're just one's further along in the journey or in a different place in the journey. And you have to just go through second, third, and fourth to get to fifth. But we don't look at whatever age that is, 7-year-old, and look at an 11-year-old, or I don't know the ages, and say the 7-year-old or the 11-year-old's better than the 7-year-old because they're further along their human journey. No, we just go, no, the 7-year-old's just right there and they got to learn some things before they move on to the next one. And the 7-year-old as well is no worse than the 20-year-old. And so when you think of your own growth, if you're looking at stuff like this and you're going like, oh, crap, I'm like doing 4 or 5 out of 5 of these behaviors. It's okay. Your part of the journey was probably to come to this video, become aware of that, and to start to make some changes. There might be someone that comes to this video and goes, oh my God, great. I'm not displaying any of these. I shed these a long time ago. The thing then is to not get an ego about it and just to go, great, what's my next step in the journey, right? And perhaps to even assist someone that wants to get to where you are. Why am I making this video? These are things I had to let go of, and for the most part, I've completely let go of. That's why I'm presenting them to you. But it doesn't make me better than you. Understand? It just makes me where I am on my journey. So do not get disheartened if you are displaying some of these behaviors. Just rejoice and be grateful that you now are aware of them and you can start making different choices. Anyway, guys, there you go. Long-winded end to the video, but I know there are some people who still think that, they should be somewhere else. It's not true, right? So just start to take this advice and you will start going exactly where you need to go. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.